Steam billowed through the luxury hotel suite as the bathroom door swung open. Lucas Harrington, 70-year-old billionaire CEO of next-gen technologies, stepped out with just a towel wrapped around his waist, water droplets glistening on his surprisingly fit chest. He moved toward his walk-in closet, reaching for the handle, completely unaware of what waited inside. Their eyes locked in the mirror. Time froze as the billionaire CEO, with nothing but a towel round his waist, discovered her hiding among his designer suits. "Abigail," his voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Would you care to explain why you're hiding in my closet?" Abigail Vega, Director of Financial Compliance at NextGen, pressed herself against the cedar-scented wall, her professional composure shattered. 15 minutes from now, Lucas would deliver the most important keynote speech of his career. But in this moment, her career, possibly her entire future, hung by a thread. "Mr. Harrington, Lucas, I apologize for the intrusion," she stammered. "There's something urgent you need to know before your speech." A knock interrupted this exposed moment. "Mr. Harrington, 15 minutes until you're needed downstairs," called his assistant. Lucas's piercing grey eyes remained fixed on Abigail's. "Wait here," he commanded, closing the closet door with deliberate control. What happened in the next 15 minutes would transform not just their relationship, but the fate of an $8.2 billion company. The question wasn't just why she was hiding, but what secret was worth risking everything to reveal. Have you ever been caught somewhere you absolutely shouldn't be? Like this video if you've ever had your heart stopped during a moment that could destroy everything you've worked for. Because sometimes the most dangerous place to hide holds the key to your greatest victory. Next-gen technologies stood as a monument to American innovation, a gleaming glass tower in Manhattan, housing over 10,000 employees worldwide. Founded in 1994 by Lucas Harrington, the company had revolutionized global supply chain management software. By 2025, their systems powered logistics for 45 countries, generating $12 billion in annual revenue. Inside this tech empire, Abigail "Abby" Vega had forged an unlikely path to the executive floor. Born to Dominican immigrants in Queens, Abigail represented everything the American dream promised but rarely delivered. Her parents worked double shifts, her father as a hospital custodian, her mother as a home health aide, to put food on the table. While other students partied through college, Abigail worked nights at a 24-hour diner, graduating from Columbia's MBA program with honors and mountains of debt. Before NextGen, she'd built her reputation at Deloitte, specializing in corporate governance. Her published paper criticizing financial opacity in tech companies caught Lucas Harrington's attention. Rather than being offended by her critique of companies like his own, he'd recognized raw talent and offered her a job most would kill for. "Find everything wrong with my company," he told her during their first meeting. "I didn't build NextGen to hide from the truth." As Director of Financial Compliance, a role created specifically for her, Abigail gained unprecedented access across departmental boundaries. Her investigations had uncovered multiple instances of mismanagement and potential fraud, earning her admirers among those who valued transparency, but also creating powerful enemies within the organization. Her colleagues called her the Vault, not just because she guarded company secrets, but because her integrity remained unbreakable. For 3 years, her work had strengthened NextGen's reputation with regulators and investors alike. But what Abigail was about to discover would force her to risk everything she'd built. Her next audit had revealed something that would shake the foundation of the company itself, a discovery that would place her directly in the crosshairs of the most dangerous people she'd ever encountered. Lucas Harrington's legend began in a MIT dormitory, where he wrote the first lines of code that would eventually power global commerce. He never collected his degree. The university couldn't teach what he already knew. At 40, his software managed 30% of international shipping. By 50, that number reached 60%. At 70, his personal fortune exceeded $8.2 billion. Standing 6'2" with silver hair and penetrating grey eyes, Lucas commanded any room he entered. His management style was exacting, sometimes brutal. NextGen operated on what employees called Harrington Standard Time, 18-hour workdays where excellence wasn't praised but expected. Average people build average companies, he often said. We are not of rage. To investors, Lucas remained the irreplaceable visionary who consistently delivered 22% annual growth. To competitors, he was the adversary who anticipated market shifts with uncanny precision. 3 major tech firms had launched Harrington-proof initiatives over the years. All 3 eventually sold their logistics divisions to NextGen. But time created new challenges. The board, increasingly populated with members half his age, questioned his leadership. They complained about his resistance to outsourcing and his substantial investments in experimental carbon-neutral technologies. Quarterly profits are vanity metrics, he told them. Legacy is built on decades. Most surprising was Lucas's relationship with Abigail Vega. While other executives avoided the compliance director, Lucas sought her counsel. Despite their 36-year age gap and completely different backgrounds, he valued her direct assessments and willingness to challenge his assumptions. Everyone else tells me what they think I want to hear, he once admitted to her. You tell me what I need to know. This unexpected alliance would soon become the only thing standing between Lucas and the destruction of everything he'd built. Comment below if you've ever admired someone who built an empire from nothing but their vision and determination. What would you risk to protect a legacy you believed in? By early 2025, a shadow movement had taken shape within NextGen's executive ranks. 7 board members, led by Chief Operating Officer Victor Langley, had formed a coalition with one goal: forcing Lucas Harrington into retirement. Victor, at 45, represented everything Lucas despised in modern executives: a polished, focused on short-term gains, and utterly lacking vision. Lucas is brilliant, Victor told his allies during closed-door meetings, but the company needs leadership for the next decade, not the last century. Their plan was methodical and calculated. First, they documented every instance where Lucas overrode board recommendations, portraying him as increasingly autocratic. Next, they raised concerns about his age and stamina. Most effective was their campaign highlighting recent technological initiatives that had yet to generate revenue. $600 million invested in carbon-neutral supply chains with zero return, Victor emphasized to key shareholders. Brilliant for his legacy, disastrous for your dividends. The timing was strategic. NextGen's annual shareholder meeting approached, with Lucas set to announce another major sustainability investment. The dissidents planned to approach institutional investors immediately after his keynote, presenting evidence that the company needed leadership focused on profitability, not legacy. What made their plan truly dangerous was the personal ammunition they'd gathered. Through a series of confidential payments hidden in obscure accounting codes, Abigail discovered Victor had hired private investigators to examine Lucas's personal life. During a routine audit of executive expenses, she found unusual payments authorized by Victor to Reynolds Security Consulting, a firm known for corporate intelligence gathering. The $175,000 payment had been disguised as competitive analysis, but routed through 3 separate department budgets to avoid detection. Digging deeper, Abigail uncovered a digital trail connecting Victor to discussions about a substantial payment Lucas had made to Madeline Winters in 2020. The board members weren't just planning to challenge his business decisions, they intended to characterize this legitimate charitable donation as hush money for inappropriate behavior, creating a scandal that would force his resignation. The plotters had no idea they were being watched. In her glass-walled office 16 floors below the executive suite, Abigail compiled evidence of their scheme, her heart racing as she realized the full scope of their plan. The countdown to destroy Lucas Harrington had begun, and only she possessed the information that could stop it. The grand ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria transformed into a sea of wealth and influence for NextGen's annual charity gala. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors where tech moguls, Wall Street titans, and media personalities circulated in designer evening wear. A jazz quartet played softly in the corner as waitstaff offered champagne on silver trays. For Lucas Harrington, this particular gala held monumental significance. Tonight he would announce NextGen's most ambitious project yet, a $300 million commitment to developing carbon-neutral supply chain technologies. The announcement would position the company at the forefront of environmental responsibility in the tech sector while requiring substantial capital that would impact short-term earnings. The board hadn't fully vetted the initiative. Lucas knew this would intensify tensions, but his controlling stake meant he didn't need their approval, only their cooperation. Abigail arrived in a midnight blue gown, her usual professional armor exchanged for evening elegance. She watched Lucas work the room with practiced charm, unaware of the sharks circling him. During dinner, Abigail found herself seated at a table adjacent to Victor Langley and several board members. Their conversation, loosened by expensive champagne, confirmed her worst fears. "The timing couldn't be better," Victor murmured. "Once he announces another massive sustainability project, we approach Westfield Capital with our evidence." "What about the winter's payment?" asked board member James Reynolds. $5 million to a former girlfriend's foundation," Victor replied. "The press won't care about the technicalities. They'll run with Billionaire CEO pays off former lover. The share price will tank by morning. BlackRock won't tolerate the scandal," another added. "They're already nervous about the sustainability spending." The dinner plates cleared. The program indicated Lucas would speak in exactly 30 minutes. Abigail felt her throat tighten. Their plan wasn't just a corporate takeover, it was character assassination. The payment they referenced was legitimate, a major charitable initiative she'd personally reviewed. But context wouldn't matter once the narrative took hold. She checked her watch, 9:35 p.m. Lucas needed to know before walking into their trap. "Have you ever overheard something you weren't supposed to? Something that put you in an impossible position? Subscribe if you've ever had to choose between the easy path and the right one." Abigail abandoned her dessert and moved through the crowded ballroom, phone in hand. Lucas's private line went straight to voicemail. Once, twice, 3 times, she spotted his assistant near the stage. "I need to speak with Mr. Harrington immediately," Abigail said, her voice tight with urgency. "He's in his suite reviewing his speech notes," the assistant replied. "Strict instructions, no interruptions." "This can't wait," Abigail insisted. "It's about tonight's presentation." The assistant hesitated. "Suite 4200. He's due back downstairs in 25 minutes. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor gave Abigail precious seconds to organize her thoughts. The hallway stretched before her, empty except for Michael Torres, Lucas's head of security, positioned outside the presidential suite. "Miss Vega," Torres nodded, recognizing her. "Mr. Harrington requested privacy." "Financial compliance emergency," she interrupted. "It affects tonight's announcement." Torres studied her face, then stepped aside. "He's finishing up in the bathroom. Wait in the outer office." Abigail entered the expansive suite with its panoramic views of Manhattan. She heard water running in the bathroom. Lucas was showering before his speech. Before she could settle in the waiting area, voices in the corridor froze her in place. Victor Langley and 2 board members had arrived. "We need to speak with Lucas before he goes downstairs," Victor's voice carried through the door. Panic shot through her veins. If they found her here, they would immediately suspect her knowledge of their plans. Abigail scanned the suite frantically. The bedroom door stood ajar, revealing a massive walk-in closet. Without hesitation, she slipped inside, pulling the door nearly closed. The closet was immaculate, Rows of bespoke suits, shelves of folded sweaters, and racks of Italian shoes stretching into the shadows. The space smelled of cedar and Lucas's distinctive cologne. From her hiding place, she heard Victor arguing with Torres, ultimately being turned away. She exhaled with relief, preparing to emerge, only to freeze as the bathroom door opened directly into the bedroom. Steam flooded the room as Lucas Harrington stepped out. Lucas moved toward the closet, a towel wrapped loosely around his waist. Water droplets traced paths down his broad shoulders, remarkably fit for his 70 years. He reached for the closet door, pulling it open completely. Their eyes met in the full-length mirror that lined the interior wall. Lucas froze, his hand still on the door handle. Abigail pressed herself against the far wall, surrounded by his designer suits, her professional demeanor completely shattered. For 3 endless seconds, neither moved. "Abigail," Lucas recovered first, his voice dropping to a dangerous timbre she'd never heard before. His eyes narrowed, calculating. "Would you care to explain why you're hiding in my closet?" The power dynamic between them, already unequal, shifted dramatically. Here was no longer the director of financial compliance and the CEO. This was a woman caught trespassing and a man in a state of undress. The vulnerability flowed both ways. "Mr. Harrington, Lucas, I apologize for the intrusion," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's something urgent you need to know before your speech." His expression remained impossible to read, a mixture of surprise, suspicion, and something else she couldn't identify. The muscles in his jaw tightened as he held her gaze. A sharp knock interrupted the moment. "Mr. Harrington," his assistant called through the bedroom door. 15 minutes until you're needed downstairs." "1 moment," Lucas replied, his voice perfectly controlled despite the extraordinary situation. He turned back to Abigail, studying her with those penetrating grey eyes. "Wait here," he commanded, closing the closet door with deliberate gentleness. Through the small gap, Abigail watched him move to his suitcase, selecting underwear and dress socks. The absurdity of her position, a Harvard MBA, respected executive, now hiding like a teenager caught sneaking out, hit her with full force. What would you do if you found someone hiding in your private space? The choice Lucas made next would determine not just their futures, but the fate of an entire company. Several minutes passed before the closet door opened again. Lucas had donned black trousers, but remained shirtless, his silver hair still damp from the shower. "Now," he said quietly, "explain yourself." The words tumbled out as Abigail detailed her discovery, Victor's payments to private investigators, the deliberate mischaracterization of Lucas's donation to the Winters Foundation, the planned ambush after his keynote. "They've approached Westfield Capital and BlackRock representatives," she explained. "They're waiting for your sustainability announcement. Then they'll present this as evidence you've become a liability to the company." As she spoke, Lucas's expression shifted from suspicion to focused attention. His eyes never left hers as he absorbed every detail, his brilliant mind calculating implications and potential countermoves. "How did you discover the payments to Reynolds Security?" he asked. Cross-referencing departmental budgets. They split the $175,000 across 3 divisions to hide it. Lucas nodded. "And the Winters Foundation donation, you're confident it was fully documented and board approved?" "I reviewed it personally during last year's audit. Every dollar was accounted for, with proper recusal protocols, since you had a prior relationship with Ms. Winters." Lucas moved to the row of dress shirts, selecting a crisp white one. "You've taken a significant professional risk tonight, Abigail." His voice had softened slightly, even more so by your unorthodox method of delivery. A hint of humor appeared in his eyes, something she'd rarely witnessed in 3 years working for him. "There wasn't time for protocol," she replied. "They're ready to destroy you tonight." He slipped into his shirt, his strategic mind visibly formulating a plan. "Then we'll need to disarm their weapon. Help me with these cufflinks, would you? We have a speech to modify." Their fingers brushed, as she secured the platinum cufflinks. In this intimate moment, their professional relationship transformed into something deeper, an alliance forged in crisis. Like and share if you believe in standing up for what's right, even when it puts you in danger. How far would you go to protect someone who deserves the truth? The payment they're referencing was to Madeline Winters, who ran the education foundation we partnered with in 2020, Lucas explained, adjusting his bow tie in the mirror. We dated briefly 15 years ago, long before any business relationship. Victor's faction is deliberately mischaracterizing it, Abigail noted. They're counting on shareholders reacting to the implication without examining the details. A classic smear tactic, Lucas nodded, which means our response must be immediate and absolute. Together they formulated a plan. Rather than avoiding the allegations, Lucas would address them directly in his keynote, neutralizing Victor's faction by removing the element of surprise. Transparency is our best defense, Lucas said, his eyes lighting with strategic focus. I'll acknowledge my past relationship with Madeline before announcing the Foundation's exceptional results, then pivot directly to our sustainability initiative. Abigail pulled out her tablet. I can provide the exact figures: 20,000 students served, 87% advancement to higher education, $42 million economic impact in underserved communities. Perfect. I'll open with those metrics, making it clear this partnership became our most successful philanthropic initiative. The results speak for themselves. Lucas paced the room, refining his modified speech while Abigail transferred key data points to his presentation. Their collaboration flowed with remarkable efficiency, his visionary thinking complemented by a meticulous attention to detail. You should position the new sustainability announcement as an extension of this successful model, Abigail suggested. Frame it as proven strategy rather than experimental risk. Lucas paused, studying her with newfound appreciation. That's exactly right. The narrative becomes consistent leadership rather than reckless spending. He checked his watch, 7 minutes until he was due on stage. You've taken an enormous professional risk tonight, Abigail. I believe in your vision for NextGen, she replied simply. What they're doing isn't just unethical, it threatens everything the company stands for. Their eyes met, mutual respect deepening into genuine connection. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't secrecy, it's complete transparency. The grand ballroom had been transformed for the keynote presentation. 800 chairs faced an elevated stage where NextGen's logo glowed against a backdrop of shifting blue light. Institutional investors and media representatives filled the front rows, while board members and executives occupied reserved sections. Abigail took a seat in the second row, her heart racing as she observed Victor and his allies conferring with BlackRock representatives near the back of the room. Their expressions conveyed confidence. They had no idea their carefully laid trap had been discovered. The house lights dimmed as Lucas Harrington took the stage. Applause echoed through the ballroom, led by those unaware of the power struggle unfolding before them. Thank you for joining us at NextGen's annual charity gala, Lucas began, his commanding presence immediately drawing all attention. He moved through standard openings, highlighting company performance and thanking key contributors. Then, with perfect timing, he pivoted. Before I announce our next major initiative, I'd like to address something that I understand has become a topic of discussion among some board members and shareholders. A wave of surprise moved through the audience. Near the back, Victor's expression shifted from confidence to wariness. In 2020, NextGen made a substantial donation to the Winters Education Foundation, which has since provided technology education to over 20,000 underprivileged students. What some may not know is that the foundation's founder, Madeline Winters, and I had a brief personal relationship many years before this professional collaboration. Murmurs spread through the crowd as Lucas continued, his voice steady. This prior relationship was fully disclosed to the board when we considered the foundation as a potential partner. The donation and partnership were approved unanimously with appropriate recusal protocols in place. Lucas clicked to a slide showing statistics from the foundation's work, graduation rates, job placements, and economic impact. The results speak for themselves. This partnership has become our most successful philanthropic initiative. From her position, Abigail could see Victor and his allies frantically whispering, their planned moment of triumph evaporating as Lucas systematically dismantled their narrative. Transparency has always been one of my core values, Lucas continued, meeting Abigail's eyes briefly. Which brings me to tonight's announcement. In the weeks following the gala, the landscape at NextGen Technologies transformed dramatically. Victor Langley resigned to pursue other opportunities, his departure accelerated by an internal investigation that uncovered his misuse of company resources for personal vendettas. 2 board members who had supported his coup attempt followed shortly after. The $300 million sustainability initiative received overwhelming shareholder approval, with institutional investors praising Lucas's transparent leadership and long-term vision. NextGen stock climbed 17% within a month as analysts revised their projections to account for the company's strengthened market position. For Abigail, the most immediate change came in her elevated status within the organization. While her closet encounter with Lucas remained strictly confidential, her role in uncovering the attempted coup earned her widespread respect. Lucas appointed her to a newly created position, Chief Ethics and Compliance Officer, with expanded authority and a direct reporting line to the board. Her team doubled in size, with Lucas authorizing whatever resources she deemed necessary to strengthen governance across the company. Consider it insurance, he told her during their weekly meeting. The next Victor Langley won't find us unprepared. Their professional relationship evolved as well. Where previously their interactions had been primarily formal, they now shared a bond forged in crisis. Lucas began including Abigail in strategic planning sessions, valuing her perspective not just on compliance matters, but on broader business decisions. The most valuable asset in any company isn't technology or capital, Lucas told shareholders at the quarterly meeting. It's people with the courage to defend its integrity, even at personal risk. The statement wasn't just about corporate philosophy. It was a subtle acknowledgement of the woman who had hidden in his closet to save his vision. If you believe that courage should be rewarded and integrity matters, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed for more stories about moments that change everything. NextGen's carbon neutral initiative exceeded all expectations. The revolutionary supply chain platform now powered logistics for major shipping companies worldwide, reducing carbon emissions by 32% while increasing efficiency by 18%. The stock reached historic highs, and Lucas's vision stood vindicated in the most convincing way possible. Unprecedented growth coupled with measurable environmental impact. On the anniversary of the fateful gala, Lucas invited Abigail to dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking Central Park. The Manhattan skyline glittered beyond the windows as they discussed the company's transformation over the past year. Who would have thought hiding in a closet would lead to all this? Abigail laughed, more relaxed in his presence than she would have imagined possible a year ago. Speaking of which, Lucas replied with unusual warmth, sliding a small gift box across the table. A token of appreciation. Abigail opened it to reveal an elegant silver key. "What does it open?" she asked, turning it in her fingers. "The executive washroom," he replied with perfect deadpan timing. "I've had a proper door installed on the closet as well. You know, in case of future emergencies." Their laughter drew curious glances from nearby diners, who couldn't possibly understand the private joke between the billionaire CEO and the compliance officer who had risked everything to protect his vision, and in doing so, found her own voice and power. To unexpected encounters, Lucas raised his glass. and their surprising consequences, Abigail completed the toast. This story shows how one moment of courage can change everything. If you want more extraordinary stories that might change how you see the world, subscribe now and hit that notification bell. Comment below. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken that paid off?